How about a little advice on this Black Friday? Beware the man buying Red Bull and lighter fluid. You're welcome. Look at how amazing I am. I cannot have enough coverage. It is literally impossible for me to cover myself. I think this is the 7th time I've done this recording. I keep starting over because I think it's too tough. It's too hard on people. And the online photo community is very, very sensitive. But you see, there's a problem because Flemming sent me an email. Flemming said, hey, I'm trending. I just did this review for Fujifilm. Now, he was joking about the trending, but he wasn't joking about doing a review for Fujifilm. And for those of you who've looked at the community tab on my YouTube channel, you'll see I posted a link. And I'm going to post that link again at the bottom of this film in case someone missed it. Because Flemming made me confront the reality of the modern camera review. And I've done this film so many times because I've said some things in the prior 6 versions that I think some of the snowflakey types out there would be very offended by. So I want to walk that back a little bit because offending people is really not a benefit in any way. Even though it can be fun and entertaining, and even better than, say, like watching Netflix, it's just not that helpful. And the gist of it was, the vast majority of modern online camera reviews are completely irrelevant to someone like me. And shame on the companies for sending kit to people who don't know how to use it. That was the baseline of like, these camera companies should be ashamed of themselves because a huge percentage of reviewers are simply the squeaky wheel. They're the people who have traffic numbers. The problem with that is when someone like me needs to know about a camera, I can't use those reviews. They're irrelevant because the person behind the review does not know how to make photographs, probably doesn't have a portfolio, probably doesn't have a website that showcases exactly what they're capable of, and has probably never been on assignment with a camera. And so that separates the reviewers immediately. And for every Flemming review in the world, there's 1,000 from people who just get piece after piece after piece after piece of equipment back to back to back. They're never able to spend time with anything. And when they do, it's random street or it's pictures in a park. And so that bugs me because the camera companies are pandering. And that's really in great part what online is about. It really is. I was just answering YouTube comments and someone wrote about the bushcraft crowd on YouTube. Now, I think the bushcraft crowd, while some of them are very skilled and very intelligent and practiced at what they're actually talking about, a lot of people are conning people and they're pandering because that's what sells online. The other group that popped into my head that I mean, there's a million groups that are guilty, but this crowd that sells the idea of living off-grid and being zen and all this stuff, and yet every single thumbnail to sell what they're selling is like someone in a river in a thong. Maybe not the people that you want to follow to get zen about the world, but that's kind of the online thing. Everyone knows that we're all being conned. I'm conning you, you're conning me. We all know it, but no one talks about it. That's the beauty of the online world. So when Flemming sends me this link and I watch this film, I'm like, wow, the novelty of a camera review based on the actual imagery that was produced by the camera in a real world situation. That immediately popped into the drop-down menu in my brain as, wow, this is novel. This should not be the minority, but it is. And I think what they did, and when I say they, in the link and on the website when you see this film, Flemming has listed all the other people who were involved in this production, from the interview to the other folks, the team that he was working with. So he's got this job. Denmark has opened up. They're one of the first countries to drop the COVID restrictions. Now, this may be being reversed here in the coming weeks because it looks like Europe's heading in the wrong direction. And there's a little new variant out of Africa that's looking a little, I don't know, feisty, if you will. So Denmark opens up, and apparently the most popular band in Denmark is a band called Minds of 99. Now, I don't know anything about Minds of 99. I don't know anything about Danish music or really Denmark in general, other than the fact that they have that circle with a slash through it, which means that the language has to be fake. That's just my opinion. So Flemming, and this, let me just back up a little bit here. Flemming shoots for a major brand in their music division. He's on assignment. He's getting paid to cover this concert. He's working with the team. He's making shot lists. He's acting and working as a professional photographer. But the fact that he's in that position goes back, I'm guessing, 30 years. At the heart of this story and the heart of this review is someone who views music as a singular source of inspiration, perhaps more. And knowing Flemming now for, like I said, maybe 10 years, music in his life is like oxygen to you and I. He was a DJ in Denmark back in the day. I don't know at what level or what success level or what fame level, but that his life has been mired in music at the DNA level for decades, which is one of the reasons he's in the position he is in now. If this brand called me and said, would you shoot a concert? I'd be like, no. And I don't really know the band and the music and anything else. It's not in my DNA like it's his. And a lot of times people will look at how folks like Flemming would get an assignment like this, and photographers are notorious for taking pot shots at each other and stabbing each other in the back behind the scenes. Oh, he got lucky. Oh, it's about connections. Oh, it's about who you knew. Oh, it's about this and that. Most of the time, there's a residue of that, but at the heart of it is this is something he absolutely, truly loves and absolutely, truly understands. That's number one, before any of this other stuff happens. But what I love about this review is he's like, look, I use a Fuji X-T3. Now that's bizarre to me because the X-T4 has been out a long time. Why would that be the case? He tells me in the film, okay, great, got it. Then he's like, but I have this other need where I need this certain style of image, which is why I'm using the medium format thing, the 100 megapixel one. And then as he's telling you about the camera gear, he's like, I use the X-T3 for the fast stuff that's happening here. And you're like, bick, bick, bick. You see the images that he's made from the event with that specific camera. And you go, got it. I understand. Small, light, fast. Wonderful. Main camera. But I've got a need. I need a panorama. I need a file resolution that's high enough to where I can actually go into a single image and pull multiple files from that same image. It's not going to work with the X-T3. It does work with this camera. And oh, by the way, here's an example of exactly what I'm talking about. Now, without having to say it, this illustrates to me, who was a working photographer for a long time, who is still occasionally put in a position where I have to perform as a photographer, he doesn't have to tell me the viewfinder is good. There is no shutter lag. The mount is stable. The camera will work in low light. All of these things are unsaid because he's showing me the files. Again, the vast majority of these reviews I look at and I'm like, who is watching these? And like, why do I need a breakdown of menu items, item by item? First of all, there's a manual that comes with the camera, but the Sony, I haven't touched the menus on the Sony, I don't know, except formatting the card for months and months and months and months. And I've used it for all kinds of stuff. I use it with my adapter, with my Leica 50 shooting stills. I'll do motion of all kinds, from strapping it to the van and filming with it to basically doing on-camera stuff like I'm doing now. It doesn't matter if it's the old menu system or the new one. Menus are, whatever. You figure it out and you move on. It's the other stuff that matters. And again, it's a bizarre, I guess, the online photography well on something like YouTube. How do I put this? It's like a sucking chest wound. It just is relentless, and it pulls people into this. And when we should be going the opposite way and just actually going, perhaps in the field, maybe let's think about this as a novel idea. Maybe we should just go and actually use this stuff in the field instead of thinking about like, what's the next version? Now, this dates back. So the fact that hang on a second. Hold the phone, Chuck. Why don't we mix the mayonnaise in the can with the tuna? This dates way back. This dates back for me, this irritation at camera reviews. Because I know someone out there's asking. You're like, this is a magical review. Remember, filming all the time. Always a second cam. Always just more is what I want. This dates back to something very interesting. Cameras of old, let's say Nikon F3, F4, F5, F6, flagships. The time between the F3 release and the F4 release in modern terms would be like dating back to the Paleolithic era. It was that big of a gap. It was 5 or 6 years between, maybe more, between F3, F4. And probably the same for F4, F5, and then maybe a little shorter f5 to f6. All of those cameras were remarkable in some ways. The 4 is the worst of the lot, in my opinion, because I had 2 of the first gens and they were absolutely terrible. They worked out the bugs and they got better. f5, amazing. f6, probably the single best film camera I've ever used. Most complete. My point is, the distance and time and duration between models was massive. The f3, let's say the f3 had 6 inherent flaws. By the time the f4 came out, they would have addressed all 6 before releasing the 4. Now, the 4 brought its own set of new problems, which were then worked out when the 5 came. But what happened when digital photography arrived, this is late 90s, is 2 things happened. The US and Japan, the 2 largest photo audiences in the world. Suddenly, when digital arrived, and this was primarily in the digital point and shoots, and then brands came out, Nikon, Olympus, they had a little bit higher, like professional level point and shoots. These 2 publics proved a willingness to buy more than 1 new camera per year. And that basically was off to the races for the camera brands. Instead of saying, okay, this camera has 6 inherent flaws, we're gonna fix all 6, they would fix 1 and release a new camera. Then they would fix the next one and release another. Because people proved a willingness to keep buying the new cameras. Instead of saying, well, I'm going to wait 2 years until they actually get their act together, fix all of these problems, I'll skip the next 4 generations and I'll go from f3 to f5. And the camera companies were like, no way, why would we do that? Let's just fix one thing and release a new model because we know these suckers are going to keep buying them. And that's what we did. And so that always rubbed me the wrong way. This coincided also with this advertising campaign that you would start to see. And this was basically from every brand, which was photographer X, well-known professional, talking about, let's say, the Superflex 5000. And they'd be like, my life was crap and meaningless until the Superflex 5000 came out, and now I'm fulfilled, and I'm a well-rounded human being that's found peace and serenity. 3 weeks later, the Superflex 5000 sucks, and my life was misery back when that was out. But now that the Superflex 5001 is out, I can do all these things that I never could have done with the Superflex 5000. It's just the 5001 that's basically made me a complete human being. Fast forward 3 weeks. 5001 Superflex is a piece of crap, but the 5002 is out. You get my gist. And I would know many of these people in these advertisements, and I'm like, this is such a bad pander job of like trying to sell the next widget in line. Fast forward to today, and it's probably magnified by tenfold. And so it's very fun for me to see a review like Flemming's, which is image-based. That's all I'm saying, is image-based. So if you're one of those folks who's out there spending copious amounts of time watching camera reviews and lens reviews and the difference between a Sigma 50 and a Canon 50 and a Leica 50 and all these things, what's going on? Like, that's crazy. I didn't even do that when I bought my motorcycle. I don't do that with fly fishing equipment, camera gear, nothing else that I geek out over in life. That means you're on the precipice, people, and you want to like fall back away from the precipice and into the field where you can actually use the equipment that you already have, says the guy with a new camera every week. You know what I mean. So the gist of this is positive. It's still happening. Reviews like Flemming's, and you gotta give a nod here to Fuji, that one, I guess, commissioned him to do the film, but 2, had the patience to go through with a film like this. Because, by the way, do not forget the pacing of this film. It's very slow and it's very long. And if you're in and around any kind of modern marketing department, those are the 2 things that nobody says they want. They're like, we don't want that. We need 30 seconds or less, and it's got to be bip, 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 bip. Think like a Michael Bay film from 1994 with Nick Cage and who's the guy that I'm thinking of? James Bond. Connery. Hello, Miss Moneypenny. I hope that was helpful. You search them out. Positive, there are reviews like this being done. Search them out because they're far more relevant than the reviews of just kit. I don't know. That's my Black Friday advice for you.